I was really trying to pass it, but my hand wasn't used to doing it, and so the ball was like going toward the rim. It was like, I'm not supposed to go over there.
Welcome to What's on My Mind podcast with Eddie Johnson.
Welcome to podcast number 4. Glad you stopped in. I hope 2016 has gotten off to a tremendous start for you. Also want to remind you, you can access this podcast 3 ways in the video version. 1, you can simply go to YouTube. 2, you can visit my Facebook fan page, What's on My Mind with EJ. Or continue to visit my website, eddiejohnson8.com. If you just want the audio version, subscribe to iTunes or visit SoundCloud. This podcast is brought to you by Jason Mitchell Realty Group. If you are in the market to buy or sell your home, then I suggest Jason and his team at Realty Executives. From just about every accolade you can imagine, on a local and national level, their technology and resources are simply the best in the business. So please give Jason and his team a call at 480-522-1030. Again, that's 480-522-1030. Or visit them at mitchellgroupaz.com. Had a tremendous podcast number 3 last week. Had tremendous guests. Reggie Theus back in the day segment was extremely popular. And now we move on to number 4. And number 4 is going to bring you 3 splendid guests again. 2 ex-NFL players will stop in to discuss athletic meltdowns, particularly in their sport. And then in my back in the day segment, Kevin Willis will join me. One of my best teammates ever will join me and talk about what he's doing now and reliving the past. Again, I encourage you to stop in, purchase my book at eddiejohnson8.com. I've gotten a great response from you. Continue to visit. And for that segment that we all look forward to every week, Kwamie, Lassiter, and Rhys, Lloyd, they drop in to discuss athletic meltdowns with me.
It's time for the segment that makes us shake our heads. You big dummy.
Welcome to my Big Dummy segment. And I have 2 tremendous guests this week that's going to really break it down for you. And one of my subjects I'm going to talk about this week is actually athletic meltdowns. We've seen it historically. We've seen athletes melt down in a variety of sports, even coaches. I mean, Dennis Green, he had one of the best I've ever seen. The Bears are who we thought they were, right? So we've seen athletes melt down, and I just want to talk to 2 guys that really had tremendous careers, and they can give us a lot of information when it comes to really the subject of football players in that environment melting down. You know, my first guest is Kwamie Lassiter. I mean, he played in the NFL for 10 years, one of the most physical players you ever want to see. Matter of fact, he's tackled me a couple of times on the golf course. But he's the pride of Hampton, Virginia, attended the University of Kansas. Kwamie, thank you. And also, I must tell you that Kwamie Lassiter hosts his own sports talk radio show on Voice America Internet Radio Network. Rhys, Lloyd, he beat me up this past summer, Kwamie, on the golf course. I first met him. I didn't even know he was a football player until he broke it down to me. And he embarrassed me. He was out driving me by about 50 yards. And then I got to know Rhys and found out 4 years in the NFL as a kicker, born in Dover, England, and played his career in Carolina and Baltimore, and right now has a soccer academy in Tampa, Florida. It's called the Academy of Soccer. Gentlemen, thank you. Welcome. I'm a basketball player, and I'm not going to try to be an authority on this. That's why I'm asking you all questions. This was obviously in the news this past week in the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game when Vontaze Burfict really put a hit on Antonio Brown, and everything seemed to melt down for the Cincinnati Bengals right after that. Kwamie, look, you're in that defensive backfield. You put a lot of hits on a lot of guys. What's the mindset of a Burfict? Because everybody's saying he's a bad guy and he's vicious and all of that. What is the mindset build up for a football player, especially in a playoff setting of that magnitude?
In the playoffs, it's definitely, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on the show. I'm enjoying it. Seems like you're having a lot of fun. But when you talk about defensive guys just in general, the mindset is totally different. And I noticed it. I watched it. I tried to compare how I think going into a game to when of the top offensive guys going into a game, and it's totally different. My intentions is to set the tone. So when you talk about Burfict and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers game, I often wonder, how does a guy that talented lose his mind? But then I go back to me first. Before I can even make a judgment on him, I say, well, what was my mentality? I wanted to set the tone. It wasn't a cheap shot. I've never went into a game. Sometimes when I watch these football games, I wonder, are these guys trying to finish these guys' career? You never do that in a professional sport. But I never went into a game and said, this is your last game ever in history. I wanted to set the tone. I would take a 15-yard penalty just so you know you cannot come back here in this backfield. So now I don't have to worry about you anymore through the game, not the receiver, not the quarterback. And that's when I start picking passes off because you worrying about me hitting you. My thing is with Burfict is, how can you be so talented and all of a sudden lose your mind? That same mind that got you to a point where you became a professional athlete, to the sport you love, to a passion you have, to be successful, to be one of the best, but in a moment you lose your mind. I have a problem with that when guys like that can get to a high level and then they self-destruct.
Is it like accepting, like you want to be out of control when you're on the field, right? You want to be aggressive, but then it's also having maturity to understand that you can't disobey the rules. And It just seems like it's a fine line there. Is that a part too of coaches like pushing you to a point where sometimes you do step over that line because you feel like you're not doing your job and you extend yourself?
See, if you're thinking about the rules in football, you're thinking about playing dirty.
Yeah. Now, Rhys, you after that happened, right, with Burfict, then you see Pac-Man Jones, who's had a history, right, of getting in trouble off the field, and he loses his mind, and I thought just really cost Cincinnati. I mean, they were still out of field goal range, probably not for your leg. You probably would have kicked it from where they were, but they got an extra 15 yards added on from Pac-Man Jones. Now, explain that to me. I mean, he's watching this. He understands what just happened. His team is trying to hold them off, but yet he melts down and allows them to get another 15 yards.
Yeah. It's funny. He just covered it there. It's understanding where the emotions can take over in a game and where you have to be smart. And guys, that everybody's got a trigger. I think whether it's a play in a game, whether it's an emotion, whether it's talking to another guy, whether to try and get him off of his game. And I think obviously a guy like that who has a history like that, who can snap at any point and do silly things, I think when the emotion takes over and you see those things happen, I think the other team kind of exploits those patterns and says, hey, this guy has got a history of this, let's provoke him or let's do this. And that happens in every sport, I think. Every sport's got like the bad guy or whatever you want to call him, who when you step on the field, you're trying to rattle his cage a little bit to get him off his game, or to maybe for him to make a stupid mistake like Pac-Man did. And it's one of those things where it's very difficult to stay in the moment and figure out what's going on around you and not get caught up in my emotion taking over, and then it all goes downhill there. And afterwards you get all the teammates saying, hey, don't do that, they're trying to do it on purpose and all those things, but the guy is completely switched off at that point, and all he's focusing on is just doing something dumb because that's what his emotions is telling him to.
You have a different view of it all because you're sitting over there and your job happens actually when they get in the red zone, right?
Yeah,
and that's when you run out, or after they score a touchdown.
Yep.
And so you're looking at it in a different view, and you're seeing all these emotions going on the sideline from guys coming in. Yep. I mean, how do you handle that? Did you take leadership in that to maybe try to calm guys down? I mean, what's your view? Because you're sitting over there, and I know sometimes they might look at kickers a little bit differently within the football team. But, I mean, from your experience, what hand did you have in maybe trying to help that situation?
Well, I think it varies between every guy. I think you know your teammates, what kind of guys you've got on the team, and I think that a guy like that is maybe not a guy that you just got to go and let him cool off. I mean, the more and more people talk to him and is in his ear, maybe he continues to replay all the emotions in his mind, and it keeps him active in that stage. But There are some guys where you can go over and say, forget about it. And then there are some guys where you just say, you know what, just leave them alone and let them cool down and let them figure it out for themselves. There was, I had the fortunate time to play with Steve Smith for a few years, and we knew what Steve Smith we got per day, purely because he either told you or he had a different face mask on his helmet. If he had a clear one on, he was social that day. If he had a dark one on, it was like, just leave him alone. And little things like that, you get to, tendencies, you get to figure out teammates. And I think for someone like that, I think you just got to let him go and just let him cool down and try and let him figure it out, because he does seem like a guy who, the more and more you try and calm him down, the more and more he's going to get amped up, because he's, instead of you calming down, he's just going to continue to argue with him, because he doesn't see the rational side of what we're trying to talk about. All he's seeing is, I just want to go and do something stupid. And all the while you keep reminding him, I feel like he is never going to let it go, because he just, no matter what anybody says, they're all wrong, because it's in his head. And that is such a difficult thing to get. I mean, I'm like it with sports, and I think that's a competitive nature, but some guys just handle things differently. So
yeah, and it's always good, I guess, to stay in the moment. And, for Rhys, and Kwamie, Rhys and I were talking about this off air, is that, kickers are viewed a little bit differently. And you're a defensive guy. And, after Blair Walsh missed that field goal, which everybody says was a chip shot, right? But they don't understand what being in the moment is. Right. Even that could have been a 5-yard field goal attempt. It didn't matter. That was to win the game. And, I heard something, and Rhys, you can answer this question first, do the laces have a is it a problem with the laces when they're facing the kicker and all of these things? You're in that environment. It's got to be tough for Blair Walsh. I mean, what was your mindset when you saw him miss it?
Well, this is the thing. I did a little thing on Facebook, because everybody obviously started asking me questions, and then all the Dan Marino, Ace Ventura things started coming out with the laces out and all that sort of stuff. Listen, there's 3 components, well, actually 4 components that went into that kick for me, as seeing it, as being played and watching it. There's 3 things, or 4 things. The first thing is this. Seattle did extremely well of coming off the corner on every field goal, and they almost blocked one of them. They got close to another one. That plays into a kicker's mind and a snapper and a holder, and because they know that that's where the pressure is coming. The second thing is this. They had a rookie snapper, and snappers, when you get in the NFL, the ball rotation is within a quarter of a panel turn for a snapper or for a holder every single time. And it's like clockwork. Those guys are so good at it. As a rookie, you're putting him in a position. It's a playoff game. It's a game-winning field goal. Yes, it's short, but nothing changes for him. It's still a 7 or an 8 or a 7.5-yard snap, whatever the rotation is on his ball, and they figure that out. I think he got a little either excited or nervous, or was like, I need to fire this back quicker because the people off the corner are coming quicker. And all of a sudden, the spin's now off, right? It's just no different from like a golf swing. The harder you swing at it, the more things can go wrong. But in your head, you think, I've got to flip this back quick. I think the holder did a poor job of at least trying to make a quarter turn of the panel to make sure that you're not kicking laces. Again, it was cold. There's a lot of things that go into it. He's wearing gloves, but at the same token, you want to give the kicker the best chance. Now, on the kicker's side of things, from a 27-yard field goal, laces or no laces, you make that kick.
Right.
Cold weather or not cold weather, you make the kick.
It's big time. You got to make it.
I'm glad to hear that.
And here's the thing. He even came out and said it. It's not like it's not, and any kicker would say that. Yeah, I should have made it. Well, yes, you should have, but mentally, when you see laces there, I don't think it actually affects the ball if the laces are on the side, obviously, because the weight then carries the ball slightly. I think he was more worried about the rush off to the right-hand side than actually the kick. Because if you watched his body language, when he saw that ball, he went so quickly at it and tried to turn it and just said, because it's so close, I can favour the left side a little bit because the ball's not going to travel and
Right.
completely disappear. And I think he just yanked it.
You hear all this talk about, oh, we don't need kickers now in football. Just play 4 downs. We don't need them to come in and decide the game after we've worked hard for 50 minutes or what have you, right? I mean, what's your thought on that? Because, I've heard quotes historically, right, about when a kicker misses it, everybody jumps on them. When they make it, they're a hero. I mean, what's your thought on it? Because I'm sure you've been on both ends of it.
Yeah, I think that's idiotic. We need kickers in the game. If you ask some of the best kickers who can kick 50-plus yards and consistently make those more times than not, that's when it determines and determines whether your team wins a football game or not. So I was glad to hear what Blair was saying. When I was watching that game, the Seattle Minnesota game, I was a fanatic. When he missed that 27-yarder chip shot, if you will, I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to make that. That's all you have. That's your job. Then I calm myself down and say, you know what? That guy is the reason why they were in that game.
Uh-huh. And it's good to have a defensive player on and a kicker on, and you both agree. Because I've heard stories and I've heard comments, though, from players that would go off in that scenario, but it's good to hear that from you on here. I want you to know, I've always said football is a man's game. And after watching that game last week in Minnesota with the wind chill 24 below, look, I'm telling you right now, I think you're all big dummies out there in that cold weather. Hey, no way. Let me tell you something. No way would I get out there. I would retire right there. I'm done. My last question to both of you guys. You look at a game like that because we all wanted to watch it, right? Because it's great TV. But to play in an environment like that, to play in that cold weather, first of all, I want to know what's the coldest that you all have played in. And Rhys, he went to the University of Minnesota, so he was in the cold. And then how do you counter that? Because guys are out there with their sleeves, no sleeves on. Matter of fact, I think I saw, I don't know who it was, I think Sherman, he didn't even have a T-shirt under his uniform. His jersey came up, and you saw his body. And I was like, are you kidding me? I don't get it, man. Please get me into the mindset of how you all think in that cold weather.
Well, you block it out. I know when I was at University of Kansas, we played Nebraska. Nebraska was freezing cold. That might have been, it probably was 0 degrees. That might have been the coldest game that I played in my career. But when you out there, a lot of guys want to be tough. They get in the locker room. They psych themselves out. They put on Vaseline because it closes your pores, keep the heat trapped in. So that's why you see guys with no sleeves. Another reason we don't wear sleeves is because when you start sweating and you get on sleeves, you get colder. So it's better off to not wear sleeves as opposed to wearing them and then get cold once you start sweating.
Well,
Rhys, you over there cold all game long.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm putting on as many clothes as possible. See, I don't get to sweat, and I certainly don't get to run around. So for me, I'm trying to wrap up a little bit more. And I love defensive guys because of their mindset. And obviously, like he just said, that them coming down on kickoff, they're a huge help to me as well. If I miss-hit one or whatever. And so I've always agreed with defensive guys. This is one area I won't agree on, though. I have to be warm. They get to run around and I don't.
But you got, hey Rhys, you have a bench over there though with fire coming out of it. You can sit down.
Depends on if you're home or away.
Yeah, that's part of it. But not only that, you still got to get off that bench at some point, and that's the problem because the kicker's life is going from one bench to the other depending on who's on the field. So if the offense is on the field, we're on the offensive bench. When they come off the field, we go and take the defensive bench. So we do more walking than running just because we're trading benches every 2 minutes. But the mental, I still can't fathom hitting someone as hard as these guys do when it's that cold. Putting on a cold helmet is one of the worst feelings ever. If you're not sweating and getting it warm, the padding inside feels like it's just a rock pushing against your forehead until it obviously gets warm and it softens up. that's one of the worst feelings, and these guys are hitting each other with it. And I just can't fathom getting hit the way these guys hit each other. I'm quite happy the decision I made and decided to be a kicker.
That's great. Hey guys, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again.
Yeah.
And it won't have to be the big dummy segment next time. I mean, but I just love talking football. And I got educated today, so thank you all for coming in.
Eddie, real quick, guys lose their mind because they don't practice on that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and hit that big shot. So when you practice on that, you prepare for that your whole career.
All right.
Chance to lose your mind.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks again to Kwamie, Lassiter, and Rhys, Lloyd. What a tremendous amount of information. And I guarantee you, I'm still not playing in the cold. I don't care how much Vaseline you get me to put on. Now to that segment that makes us relive the past. And last week's Reggie Thea's interview was off the chain. But it's going to be top this week because I have one of my special ex-teammates. And I'm talking about charismatic, knowledgeable, and just really loved his craft. And his name is Kevin Willis. You're going to enjoy this from back in the day.
Reminiscing about back in the day.
Joining me for back in the day.
Yeah.
His name is Kevin. I never heard this when you played. Alvin Willis.
You know it.
See, I call you out on back in the day now.
It's all good, man. That's it.
Now look, Pershing High School in Detroit, Michigan. Man, tell me about that school. Was it any other alumni there as well?
You know what, Eddie? I went to Kettering High School my 9th grade, 10th grade. Then Mom decided to move on the northeast side of town, found a new house, man. So we moved. And believe it or not, at Kettering, I tried out for the 9th grade team and quit. Like, man, these cats ain't gonna do nothing with me, man. So I ended up quitting. Then several months later, we ended up moving. And so by the time the summer came, man, I was out of school, and I had to declare what school I was going to go to and register. So it was either Pershing or Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
We were closer to, it was closer to Pershing. So obviously I had to make that decision. Spencer Haywood went there and whatnot. So I went there, and I wasn't even on the basketball team, not at Kettering or on this one. So the coach walks up to me. I'm walking through the hallways. He said, "Hey, young man, how long you been here?" I said, I just transferred. He said, "Where you transferred?" I transferred from Kettering High School. And he said, "You play basketball?" I said, "I tried, but I don't want to play basketball."
Mm-hmm.
And he said,
"How tall were you then?"
I was about 6'4". And he says, "Young man, you need to play basketball." I said, "Well, I tried out for JV at Kettering, and I ended up quitting because they wasn't doing right by me."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I tell you what, you play for me, and I'll do right by you. Just give it a try. Come to my class." He taught physical education my last period. He was a teacher and he's a coach. So I say, "All right, I got your class anyway, so I'll come and check it out." So he puts me in this position where I go into the gym. I don't know nobody. I'm a new kid on the block.
Right.
I get into the gym, and all the other players are there, obviously, on the team because they got this class. And they're playing and dunking and all having a good old time. People are sitting all in the bleachers. And I'm like this kid looking around like, what in the hell? And all of a sudden, he says, "Let me see you dunk one." Now, I ain't never dunked a ball in my life. I have never dunked a basketball. And I'm feeling this pressure. And I said, man. So I grabbed the ball. My hands ain't that big. So I grabbed the ball, and I remember seeing either it was George Gervin or somebody cuff the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the only way I'm going to hold on to the ball, because I ain't going to try it 2 hands. So I go up with 1 hand, and I run with it and go up, and I miss. And he said, "Well, try it again." So I tried again. And I missed again, but I noticed I was up pretty high. So I was scared. So I go up, and then the 3rd attempt, I say, well, it's not working me cuffing it. So I said, the only person I saw grab a ball and dunk with 2 hands and do it with some force. I said, Daryl Dawkins.
Yeah.
He took that joker from back here, and I said, that's what I'm going to try. And I went up, and banged that joker through, man, so hard, man. From that moment on, it was on. It was it. That was it. I was on forever.
What made you decide on Michigan State?
Bill Frieder and Judd Heathcote come to junior college and watch my game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know what Michigan State coming for because I'm going to U of M. And I'm telling myself that. And then after it was all said and done, the next day, they talked to my coach, and he told me what they were talking about. He says, well, Bill Frieder said that he don't think you're ready for Big Ten basketball. He don't think that I could play in the Big Ten. I was just too raw, and I wasn't ready.
Right.
I said, okay. I said, what did the other Coach Heathcote say? He said, Coach Heathcote like you because you 7 foot, you can run,
right? You
athletic. And he said, he can teach you how to play basketball. I said, okay. I said, give me about a month, man. I'm gonna make my decision. Mm-hmm. I called my coach. I told him about 2 or 3 weeks later. I said, Coach, Judge sent Magic.
Oh, well, hey, you send Magic, you in trouble.
Yeah, so he came down, Magic came down. I'm on this little junior college campus, and I'm walking around with Magic. And I'm like, man, shoot, I'm it. I'm feeling good about myself. Magic come to see me. So after Magic left, I tell my coach, I said, I'm going to Michigan State. I'm going to Michigan State, and I'm gonna show Bill Frieder and let him know. I'm gonna show him if I can play in the Big Ten.
And Bill's out here in Phoenix, so I remind him every time I see him.
Yeah, let him know.
Yeah, and you had a tremendous career there as well. And you know, when I looked at some of your stats, I saw something that jumped out at me, and I'm gonna jump forward and come back with.
Yeah.
You know, it was so many Michigan State alums there. I mean, we'd be sitting here all day talking about all the great players that's come out of Michigan State. And obviously, you mentioned the most popular one in Magic Johnson.
Right.
But did you know, out of all the pros that have gone on to play in the NBA, it was only one guy that played more games than you, and that's Johnny Green within the NBA. You know that. You're not a stat guy. I don't think you pay attention to it. But, you know, you sit 6 all time in games played in the history of the game, and Johnny Green was that guy. It wasn't Magic. It wasn't Steve Smith.
Exactly.
It was Johnny Green. And that just goes to show you, you know, how an alma mater can hide a guy because of all the great players, you know, that went there, and Johnny Green was that guy. That was something that stuck out at me.
Wow, jumping Johnny Green.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but you get drafted and get drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, correct?
That's exactly right.
And that team in Atlanta, man, it was such a powerful team. I mean, you guys, unfortunately, you had to deal with Boston and for those number of years, but you all were young. You had a great nucleus. You all played a role. Tell me a little bit about that Hawks team that took the Boston Celtics to the edge.
Well, that team, you know, when I was a rookie, we had John Concack coming in. He came in the next year. We had John Battle. We had Doc Rivers in his, I think he was in his second year. Nick was in his third year. Whitman was in his, I believe, second or third year. Tree Rollins was in his like 7th or 8th year. And you had a core of guys, Scott Hastings. You had a core of guys that really, really got along good together. We had a nucleus that was like amazing. And then we had Mike Patello, who was the rookie head coach that was behind Lockery all them years. So we had a great young coach. We had a Antoine Carr-Cliff. These guys who are, everybody, 90% of the guys on the team was extremely athletic. Whitman wasn't too bad. Scott Hastings wasn't too bad.
He just looked extra slow running next to you all.
But we knew all we had to do was free Whit up, and we're going to get his shot off. But that nucleus of guys, we did so many different things off the court and during the off season that kept us, well grounded, kept us together. And I think it carried over. And then we got those beatings from the Detroits and beaten from the Boston Celtics all those years. We started to mature and realize in our minds mentally that, you know what, we on the court with these guys, and we know we athletic as they are. We're younger than them. We just have to mature, and we have to believe that we can beat these cats.
Mm-hmm.
And when we took Detroit out and knocked them out and went to that series against Boston, and once we got there,
and that was in what year? Boston series. That
was 87, 88 season. And it was like, we here. We never got to the point like we satisfied that we here. We went in knowing we're going to beat Boston.
Right.
We're going to beat Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And we took them to that game 7. And it was one of the most excited, celebrated playoff series ever.
I know.
And we ended up ultimately, we ultimately ended up doing that game 7, the big rival, Hanique and Bird doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a growth thing again. It was like, if we gone through that, we go to game 7. If we would have stayed together that following year, that same team, same personnel, maybe added one piece, maybe bring in another shooter, maybe bring in another defensive ace.
Right.
Don't need nobody to score, this and that. We got all that covered. Just those little key points that we need to have players to come in and do those key roles. I think that following year, we probably would have won the championship. Yeah.
Man, you played, what, 21, 22 years?
22 years.
Hey, that's unbelievable. And
Unbelievable,
with a number of teams, and it tells me that you love the game. I always tell people, they say, man, how can you play that long? I mean, I snuck 17 in. I say you have to have the love for the game. And I think you, more than any player that's played in the game, probably up there with Robert Parrish, obviously Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that the love of the game kept you going. And I just want to know, how did you stay healthy, man? Because when you played that many years, you played till you took a year off, right? Then you came back.
2 years.
2 years off, came back to the Dallas Mavericks at 44 years old. Right. I mean, how did you stay healthy? In this day and age now, man, with these young guys, man, they'll miss 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. They might miss a game with a headache. How are you able to just parlay that into that long career?
Well, I think, Ed, it was just like you said, it's the love of the game, the camaraderie of your teammates, and we played together. That work ethic. Mm-hmm. It was I wasn't ever going to be outworked. It wasn't going to be where a cat going to outwork me in the summer. He's not going to get doing the training camp, and you're going to show me up in training camp. I'm coming into training camp knowing, whoever team I'm on, I'm beating all guards.
Right.
That was my mindset. I'm beating all guards.
And
I
you
may
did.
not win all of them.
I saw you run sprints when you was in your high 30s.
So that was my mindset, because I knew I was blessed to have this. Everybody ain't 7 foot, and have the built or the genetics I have. So my thing was never to do anything to tarnish or damage that. So,
you had some secrets. See, you're not fooling me. You can come clean now. You can come clean now. Now, one of your secrets on the court and stay healthy is you were pretty well armored up,
Yeah.
And I used to play against you, and I caught a couple of them elbows, And then you got smart and you started putting pads on your elbows. And, that was intimidating people because you always have them up in their face and everything.
Yeah. That was, I damaged one of my elbows. Hit that funny bone.
Yeah, on somebody's chin.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's killing. And I do it, and it was happening frequently. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put this elbow pad on and try to help it. And then I'm looking, it looked awkward. I need 2 of them on. So I put those on for the hell of it. And so I just made it my thing now. So I got both of them on. And then, like you say, it's an intimidating factor.
Yeah, it was.
So my thing was, if I want to get a cat off of me, I can get him off of him without knocking his eyeball out. But these elbows will help me sort of protect him.
But if you knocked his eyeball out, that's part of the game, right?
You know it.
I think it came to fruition for you in 2003, where you had that opportunity to experience something that you were chasing.
Next thing I know, I get a call, man, from Popovich. I'm on the phone with Pop, man, and I'm like, yes, I will come.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be there. Whatever you need. So he tells me everything, and he says, hey, I want you to, here's your role. How you feel about it? I say, Coach, Whatever you need.
And you deserved it, because if anybody that had put all that you have into the game and didn't miss games, played injured, and have that chance to win a championship, man, that had to be that made you feel like that's the reason why all this stuff is been in my life. And and I was extremely happy for you. I was jumping up and down for you. I rarely cheered for the Spurs, but that year you were on the Spurs, I cheered, and because we were teammates. And quickly, we got a few minutes here, but quickly. Our experience in Houston, I've been on a lot of funny, loose teams, but our experience in Houston, man, those years, and we had a chance. I mean, we had a very talented team with obviously Dream and Charles and Clyde in those late 90s, but, we just couldn't get over the hump. We had a tough series against Utah, but as a team, man, we were close-knit. And I got a chance to get to know you because I was always an opponent. And you used to always get under my skin. You pop me, get out of this lane, But that team was unreal. And I told somebody this story, and I'm sure you remember it. One day we had shoot around, and Charles came to shoot around with some boots on that had mud on the bottom. And I told people, I said, you know what? That is probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But that's the type of team that we had. We were all older. We were all set in our ways. Clyde would show up 3 minutes before practice, wouldn't even stretch.
That's Clyde all day. I think that time, man, that we had that team, out of the teams I played for, the players I played with, I tell people this all the time. If I wasn't in Atlanta, I would be in Houston. That's what type of relationship that we had in Houston, the city, the fans, that organization, and them core players, man, it was like no other. Now, my rookie year was, with Nick and all them, that was fun, that was great. But we all mature, we vets. We didn't have to be sort of teachered or looked over. Right. We just had a hell of a team. We had a hell of a team. Yeah. And like you say, whatever it was that we couldn't get over that little bump, man, against Utah, man, I thought if we'd have won that series, we'd have won the championship again.
No doubt. Kevin, man, tell me what you're doing now, man. You're retired. You only been out of the league, what, 2 months? I heard Dominique talking about you last week. He's like, Kevin Willis look like he can still play. I said, look, most conditioned athlete I've ever seen in my life. But also off the court. Man, you have done so many things, but fashion has always been what has grabbed your attention. What are you doing now?
Well, the fashion component, as you know, I've been doing it ever since, we was in Houston, before Houston. And I'm still doing it. I'm sitting right now in my flagship store. I got a 3,400 square foot flagship store in Buckhead, Atlanta. 2 levels, absolutely beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. And I welcome you to come in when y'all come to Phoenix. Come here from Phoenix, play the Hawks. But it's a lifestyle brand. I started 12 years ago. I did everything over time, but 12 years ago, I really started getting heavy in denim. And I mastered it now. Now I understand the development of denim, how it's weaved, how it's made, how it's washed, how the shrinkages, the whole 9 yards. So that's my anchor. Now I've added, to pair with that, denim, with the denim is sport coats, woven shirts, knits, outerwear, leather, non-denim bottoms, suits, the whole 9. So it's a lifestyle brand now. And when you come over, you will be like, man, I didn't know you was doing all this, like this. So I sell to stores like Saks Fifth Avenue. I just did a big deal with Dillard's. So I'm in 52 stores with Dillard's, in the process of growing that business with Dillard's. And Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom's are on the horizon. I'm in conversation with those guys now. So I'm trying to expand and get the distribution I need to build a brand.
What was your first job?
Working in the factory, sweeping up steel chips.
Steel chips? But you had goggles on, right?
I had goggles on, and these big molds with these big steel things that go through the machine. You shave them with this hot lead, this thing that shave the chips off this metal, shaping the steel. They fall on the ground. They burn in hot red because they're so hot. I would have to take this shovel and shovel them into a wheelbarrow and take them out to the back of the factory. I was 12 years old.
Wow. Okay. Now, I know you have somebody, so I don't want to hear that. When you played your 22 years, if you could have smacked somebody and gotten away with it, who would it have been?
Bill Lane Bill. Bill Lane Bill. Smack the dog shit out of him. That's who it would have been. Right there.
Okay, so who was the guy that you wanted to bust up every time you played against him? Just something about him. He got the best of you that you just wanted to just have a great game against and bust him up.
I would say it would have to be, I would say Carl Malone. It had to say Carl. Yeah. Carl was one of them guys, man, that, he cried, this and that. I went to the refs, and I just wanted to shut him down and just give it to him.
Give it to him.
But a great guy, man.
I saw a lot of those, though. I saw a lot of those moments.
You know that. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So, who was your favorite athlete growing up?
My favorite, Muhammad Ali.
Boom. You see the gloves behind me?
Cassius Clay, baby. You know it. That's it. Period. Hands down. Ali.
Hands down.
Ali.
Not even close.
Not even close.
And what's your favorite prized possession right now?
As far as materialistic, my ring.
Mm-hmm.
My ring.
Mm-hmm.
My ring.
That's great.
That to me, 19 years of waiting to get that, the long career, the championship ring.
All right, Kevin Alvin Willis.
Yes, sir.
And you can be reached on your Twitter, Kevin Willis 42.
Kevin Willis 42.
Kevin Willis 42. Man, I appreciate talking to you today.
Anytime, E. Sorry.
I don't know about you, but I'm serious. I can talk for hours when it comes to reliving the past with guys that I was attached to in some way or some form in my career. What a tremendous individual Kevin Willis is, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. And now let's move on to my final thought.
Here are Eddie's final thoughts.
That phrase, sick and tired, it really relates to the San Antonio Spurs. When are they going to go away? Or are they ever going to go away? And I think what we need to recognize, they're not going to go away. Because strategically, they're the best organization in pro sports. They get it. Their communication line from top to bottom is immovable. They figured it out. And it started back when David Robinson decided to adhere to Greg Popovich and allow Tim Duncan to take over 16 years ago. And Tim Duncan was the perfect pupil for it because you know why? He's followed the advice of David Robinson and he's allowed Tony Parker to take over. He's allowed Manu Ginobili to take over. And now guess what? Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge are the future. The San Antonio Spurs, they are envy. Everyone dislikes them. And not because they're bad, it's because they're good. And they're not going anywhere. Right now, they're just running a shadow distance behind the Golden State Warriors. Both teams having a tremendous start. And it's all predicated on that one word, communication, which leads to adhering to job responsibility, which is most importantly focused at role play. And they play their roles from top to bottom. And that's why I'm sick and tired. We are at the end of another podcast, number 4. Thank you again for joining me this week. Look forward to seeing you for podcast number 5. Also, again, this podcast is brought to you by Jason Mitchell Realty Group. Their resources and technology are simply the best in the business. So please give Jason and his team a call at 480-522-1030. Again, that's 480-522-1030. or visit Jason and his team at mitchellgroupaz.com. Have a great week. Take care.